I'm not the biggest fan of Cinewhoops, pretty much any of them. There have been very few that I've flown that I actually like flying. I think maybe just one or maybe two in the past. But I actually like this thing. I like this thing a lot more than I expected. And I'm going to go through the reasons why I like this thing, and you guys can decide for yourselves. So, first and foremost, this is using the Tarsier camera. I do have a Runcam Hybrid, which is a dual lens camera like the Tarsier from Caddx, which Caddx did first. I haven't had a chance to look at the Hybrid. I've had it for over a month. I'm going to get around to it. But previously, before the Hybrid came out, which may or may not be better than this camera, this one was the best option with respect to the HD view and the FPV view. Now, never mind that the user experience of this thing is awful, and it's a mystery how to get the Wi-Fi to turn on so you can actually set the settings on the thing. But once you do get it up and going, it works fine. The FPV view from this split type Tarsier dual lens camera is stunning, to say the least. Every time I fly this camera, I am just so impressed at how nice the FPV view is, how nice and sharp, high resolution, high contrast, great dynamic range, so much color. Everything is really great about this FPV view of the camera. The HD camera is fine. It's not a GoPro quality. It's the best split type camera that we have aside from the Hybrid from Runcam, which I haven't tested yet. But the FPV view on this thing is really what sells it to me as a split camera that I would personally use because it is just so exquisitely nice. Now, I didn't have an SD card in my goggles when I was recording this, so I can't show it up on screen, but this is nothing new. I've told Caddx this, multiple people have told Caddx this. I don't know why they haven't put the FPV portion of this camera into a standalone Nano product yet, but if they ever do, I think that's going to be the choice Nano camera, and choice camera, really, among most cameras. The Runcam Micro Eagle is just a little bit better. It does look like it's got a little bit more resolution. It does just generally look a little higher quality, but this camera is truly stunning for a small CMOS sensor camera. I really, really hope they put it into a standalone camera. Now, enough about that aspect. So the frame on this thing is a monobody design, which they kind of needed to do because they had to keep the weight relatively low. They are using 1105 motors here, 1105 motors. They are 5,000 kV. It's a quad blade on there, the Avant quad blade, which is a totally fine blade. And the 5,000 kV makes it a perfect kV for a 3S battery and 3S 450 milliamp battery. Specifically, this one is my favorite one, the Infinity 450. I've tried a bunch of them. This one just happens to be pretty, I mean, it's the best performance compared to any other battery, and it's a great price, so that's why I choose this one, and I have more of these than anything else, and they've been holding up fantastic. So this long style battery specifically I like more than the square style battery because it fits in more places. Anyways, plenty of room on top of this frame for the battery to go on top, and it's a really great match for the motors and the KV, so kudos to them for picking that out. The next main thing I want to point out are the prop guards. The prop guards on this thing actually are durable. Like other kind of things that are made in this sense, these like Cinewhoop things, a lot of them, not a lot of them, all of them have prop guards, and most of them are really poor durability and crack and break. I mean, these can definitely break, but they're, when you feel it in your hand, the resin is something that's confidence inspiring, and the rigidity of it is also very confidence inspiring, and the low weight of the whole thing makes you feel like it's not going to break all that easily. I would guess even that maybe you'll break an arm before you actually break one of these prop guards, which is great. Also, the actual rim around the prop is very, very thin, so it's not actually obstructing, and it's a lot bigger than the prop too. So it doesn't perform like a prop guard quad. It sort of sounds like one, and it does have a little bit of throttle weirdness, but for the most part, the throttle is mostly unaffected by these prop guards, which is fantastic. That's really the seller of this thing to me, because not only is it all set up pretty nicely, it's using the camera that's suitable and nice, the prop guards and props and sizing of all that stuff and the motors and the battery, they've really balanced it all correctly. They've gotten all the parts correct, in my opinion, on this quad for it to perform pretty well, and it does perform surprisingly well. It has great throttle control. This is definitely not an acro quad. It's not intended for acro. You're not going to be doing acro with it, but for floating around Cinewhoop style things, it performs really well. The stack they're using in there is, I believe, the iFlight stack, the 16x16 iFlight stack, which is it's okay stack. The only issue I have with it is that it has, I can't really show it in here easily, but it has pins that connect the boards together. And I don't like those pins because the stack kind of can move around in crashes and it will crack the pins apart from the board. But here they've used, thankfully, steel screws, like one solid steel screw all the way through, and the whole stack is soft mounted together on the frame here, so it actually works out really nicely. I still don't like the pins between the boards, but at least using solid steel screws means that it's not going to budge too easily and crack the pins too easily, so that should hold up fine. The Tarsier is mounted to the top plate, so if you do want to service this thing, you do have to take the thing apart and take the Tarsier off. And the Tarsier is also mounted with plastic screws as well, which I just don't prefer. But for the most part, I'm really impressed with this thing because they got all the parts, in my opinion, right for something to perform really well. So kudos to GepRC. This is a company that's been pumping out some pretty good things, as many have pointed out to me. Aside from the pins on the FC stack, one other critique I would have is that these motors are using 1.5mm shafts all the way through, which is, in my testing, I have broken 1.5mm shafts even on very light quads, but it also has prop guards, so that's really not a real issue. However, you can also take prop guards off and use it without prop guards, which is great. Yeah, everything on this quad works pretty well, and it's not unserviceable. So this is rare, but this quad gets a positive review from me. Good job, GepRC. Thanks very much. Was. Bye.